Audio Jungle. Thank you very much for joining us. You're watching another edition of MedFiles, the show that allows you to ask questions concerning your health, and we get you a doctor to answer them. I am your host, Marianne Bogo. Now today we are joined by Dr. Paul Wanjohi. He'll be answering your questions, and he's from Sky Medical Services. Karibu sana daktari.
Thank you very much.
Let's get right into it. So let's take the very first question that you had.
Ningependa kuuliza daktari, mbona mtu akifanya kazi mchana mkutwa akitembea kufika jioni amechoka? Yes, hatukatai kuchoka, lakini kufika asubuhi akiamka hivyo kwa kitanda anasikia mguu inamuuma, yani nikaa hataki kukanyaga chini, nikaa anataka kutiptoe kuenda kutembea. Unasikia kama unachomwa na yani huwezi tembea mzuri, kama ni mpaka utembee kidogo, utiptoe kidogo ndio alafu uzoeshe mguu tena.
From this description, I think he's talking about pins and needles. Yes. He describes something like needles in his foot, and he asks what is it, what causes it, and most importantly, why doesn't it ever last long?
Yeah,
it's always brief.
Okay. The sensation of pins and needles is a sensation which originates from the nerves, and you can either get pins and needles, you can get numbness, or you can get pain. Usually, the transient pins and needles, it happens mainly when you compress a nerve. And that can happen like if somebody was asleep, they slept badly, they wake up in the morning and they notice that maybe a limb feels a bit numb, or they have the pins and needles sensation. The reason why it's transient is because...
By transient, what do you mean?
Transient, it doesn't last long.
Okay.
It lasts a few minutes. Once you wake up, then it disappears.
It's gone.
And the reason why that is so is because when you compress a nerve, you also compress the blood supply to the nerve. And when the nerve doesn't have blood supply, it complains. So you get those symptoms. That's the nerve complaining. Yes, because maybe you've pressed on it, depending on the kind of posture you had or something. So when you wake up and you're up, then the blood supply is restored and the sensation goes. Yes.
So it's normal. It's not anything that anyone should worry about.
The kind of pins and needles, okay, there are two types. The kind of pins and needles which you would get if it's something which comes in the morning and it's transient, it's normal. Actually, it occurs, most of us, you must have had that kind of sensation at one time or another. And usually you find that somebody is asleep. When we sleep, we keep turning.
Yeah.
But if somebody is very tired, if somebody maybe is under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or if somebody is sick, they might not turn as frequent as they're supposed to turn when they're asleep. So sometimes they end up compressing certain places. But you see, that is not a nerve problem. If you have pins and needles which is sustained day in, day out, you're getting pins and needles, that is usually a sign of an underlying illness. And there are a number which can cause pins and needles. Illnesses like diabetes, nerve diseases, certain nutritional diseases, all this can cause that pins and that, but that is not transient. That's when you have it, you have it, you have it.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away when you wake up in the morning.
Yes. Okay. Let's see what you have to say next.
Kunao watoto ambao huwa grow. How comes mtu tu, as in nini will happen so that mtu anakuwa na complications za kugrow? Ni labda inaweza kuwa ni GMO ama exposure kwa kitu fulani ambaye inaleta mtoto wa mtu haezi grow, as in anakuwa na retarded growth all along.
He's talking about adults who never grew, who never finished growing. Where you have like a child who's born and they grow normally until they're around maybe 4 or 5, and then they stop growing.
Yes.
So you find at like age 20, a person is still, you know, the height and the body size of a 5-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that happens. There are, I think there are two scenarios here. There's the first scenario where somebody is growing well as a child, and then they reach maybe the age of 2-3 years, and then you notice they're not quite picking up. And that usually has to do with nutritional issues in childhood, especially when a child is weaned badly. And they grow, but you see after 2 years is when, I mean, after that they're not really taking the breast milk. So sometimes they have growth issues, and that is reflected in their weight gain. That is one of the aspects. Usually it's nutritional, but sometimes it can be psychological. Like if you remove a child from the mother, they undergo a certain psychological trauma which stunts growth. Now there is this other growth issue where somebody is apparently healthy, they breastfed well, they weaned well, they have good nutrition, yet it reaches a point and they stop growing. Usually those are certain genetic, they're usually genetic illnesses mainly. The main thing is actually a genetic illness where there are certain things in the bone, like at your joints. You know, your bone actually grows from the joint. There is something called an epiphysis, and your joint grows there. If there is a defect there, then you find that this person doesn't grow tall. But many times they can actually grow normally this side, sideways, but they are not really tall. Usually it's genetic. In rare cases, that can happen in people who have certain acquired illnesses, especially certain illnesses to do with metabolism of certain minerals like calcium, and usually this has to do with kidney disease. Some people with kidney disease, certain kidney disease which are acquired during childhood, they can actually stunt the growth. So you can actually find an adult who never quite
grew because of that.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, those the first two that you described, like where the child is not nourished properly, or the psychological one where the child is removed from the mother, if that is corrected, that the child is now nourished properly, the child is returned to the mother, do they pick up, or once the stunting happens, it then cannot be reversed, it cannot be corrected?
No, that one of childhood. Once you correct the causative factors, you also correct. It corrects. The body catches up. It takes a bit of time, but the body quickly. I mean, the body has a way that after a while, it catches up. And the same thing happens even to children who are born premature. When you're born premature, you're very small, and then after a while, you end up catching up with the other children.
You become normal.
Okay.
Let's see what you have to say next.
Hii mguu yangu ina peel off ngozi. Nilikuwa nafikiria maybe ni mafuta ile napaka, but si mafuta. Cause mimi napaka tu hii mafuta tu hii mild. Sipaki hizo. Sasa na shida, what is the cause ya ngozi kuwa ina peel off hivyo.
Now this one is quite interesting. I've always thought skin peeling off feet is normal. But the one that you've just seen, the lady actually, you saw she took off her shoe and showed us. She's quite quite irritated by it. So what I saw didn't look quite normal. But again, I've always thought it's no big deal. So how much is it all normal? Is it just a bit completely normal? And interestingly, she says it's completely painless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, we all shed skin. Okay, and that's part of, I mean, our skin regenerates itself, and it happens with, it takes there's a certain time interval within which that happens. But if the rate of skin turnover is too high, then you can have certain changes to the skin. Okay, and one of those changes is your skin can peel. The outer part of the skin can become abnormally thick. So those are some of the things which happen. Now, there are a number of things which can do that, and one of the common ones which does that is an infection, mainly fungal infections. Sometimes you can actually get a fungal infection which infects the whole surface, bottom surface of the foot, and that can actually cause peeling. And many times it might not even be painful.
Yeah, that's why not?
It depends, yeah. The fungal ones, many times they are not painful because the fungus doesn't really cause a lot of pain. In fact, when you get pain, it means you have probably there is a break in the skin, and now you're having a bacterial infection. Now you get a bit of pain. That's one of the causes. Another common cause is certain irritations, certain allergies. You could find somebody who is allergic to maybe something in the shoe, maybe some leather part or some synthetic part, and they are reacting to it. Some people are very sensitive to certain chemicals, certain irritant chemicals. There are people who are very sensitive to soaps, especially detergent. Now, with those kind of people, you can also get that kind of peeling. There is another one which it's quite common. The exact cause is not really known. It also causes that kind of peeling which is painless. Most of the time is not, the main complaint is not discomfort, because as we have said,
it's more of an aesthetic problem.
It's more of an aesthetic thing. Usually it's not so serious. So many times the general advice is to, because it's actually worsened by sweat and heat and friction. So is to try to minimize on sweat, heat, friction, exposed shoes and that kind of thing. If it becomes too bad, there are certain medications which can be used, but many times it might never even reach there.
Why is it so common with the feet? Why not the hands?
It also happens with the hands.
Okay.
It actually does, In fact, hands and feet. It depends also on what you're being exposed to. Maybe it's a bit, you need to look at the specific, because in some people the peeling is actually in the hands. So
it's not
very,
this
it's not
one
specific.
case that we saw is not.
Yeah, that was just specific for the feet, but it can happen in the hands also.
Okay.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.